Xana, do you live here?
Yes.
He just said that Noah was in an accident.
Officer John O'Keefe, who was off duty, was found dead on Fairview Road yesterday morning.
She was stabbed at least 11 times in her head, her neck, and her throat.
Who does live here? Is your place?
Yeah.
Noah had passed away, and nothing makes sense to
We
it.
actually don't have like crosswalks.
Kitchen's a bloody mess. She's not breathing.
Why is the kitchen a bloody mess?
I don't know.
The 4chan post is a little hard to read if you don't speak doofus, so I'm gonna break it down for you.
The 4-day party turned into something awful.
There's been a major break in the Amber Spradlin murder cover-up.
The student president of the fraternity told us that they got word from National to instruct all of their members to delete all their social media.
His girlfriend is now charged.
This is his tooth right here. His pants were folded up.
And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
I just thought that there was a lot of acting happening.
This was my client's boyfriend, somebody with whom she was in love.
Stabbed him lightly in the back just to get him off of me.
That she had to remember the bad times.
And his body was here.
You've never been in a fight?
No.
Is that what's happening? Are you crawling right now?
Do you know what tears look like?
Karen Reed was a whack job cunt, right?
Yes.
That something happened at the party that he was attending the night before.
If you have anything that you want to tell us,
cry on demand.
People know and they need to speak up.
Falling from a moving vehicle as a pedestrian, maybe being pushed out. It could also arise from an attack.
I will fuck you up. I will beat your ass.
Laying on the side.
Stabbed her
had his eyes closed,
and I saw her lifeless body.
2:42 a.m. and 2:44
That's a cop killer right there.
John's dead.
The top of his hair was scraped off his head.
And she said, Google hypothermia, Google how long it takes to die in the cold.
It's easy to pass a polygraph.
I hit him. Oh my God, I hit him.
Said, if you want to talk about it, I'll talk about it.
Constant phone calls.
Seriously, what do you want with me?
Did you ever say I hit him?
I did not.
I said I hit him
It was several times.
because he's dead.
Somebody had to have known something. Somebody had to have told a friend that they know.
Karen, we saw you outside of my sister's.
It's been the hardest time of my life.
We couldn't leave the house without people taking pictures of us.
Just take a lot of harassment.
I know it has to be eating them up inside.
Hello, happy Sunday, and what an eventful week. I mean, the jury coming out of the woodwork, allegedly. I mean, who knows what is true and what's not, but I think that's what they're counting on. They're counting on rumors and things just being unsubstantiated, because that's how they get by. That's entirely how Karen Reed's defense has gotten by so far, and it's working. I mean, Rick Green pretty much turned into a puddle on the stand, yet Microdots is putting out a new video as if it wasn't proven completely false, everything that Rick Green had put out. I mean, it's working. So less people watch the trial and the testimony, and more people are going to see the Microdots thing. So it's easy to continue slandering all these people and to continue propping Karen Reed up when we know she's a killer. I mean, it's blatantly obvious. And the whole Crash Daddy stuff. Crash Daddy. All right. So that's what I have a video on that, because I think so many people quote them as if they said that, you know, people don't know what the testimony was. But let's look at it, because it's not what people think it is.
Aggressive defense strategy, but this is above and beyond anything ethical.
What specifically were you asked to do?
So the agency that retained us gave us a selected quantity of file material related to this case, and essentially left it as an open-ended question. Ultimately, was the evidence consistent with a pedestrian interaction between Mr. John O'Keefe and the Lexus?
Okay, you said selected quantity of information. Who selected that information?
As far as I'm concerned, it would be the Department of Justice and the FBI.
All right, and they just gave you what they wanted to give you as far as you know?
We had no say in what material was handed over to us. Obviously, the scene is no longer present.
The scene's been cleared, items have been removed as far as evidence or other things. That's mostly what you deal with, correct?
Sure. We were asked not to do any outside research or investigation of the case. It was to be based solely on the evidence that we were provided.
Now, from the reports that you reviewed, were you aware that when Mr. O'Keefe's body was discovered by the defendant and two of Mr. O'Keefe's friends, that the defendant was the only one who could see him in the conditions?
Objection.
So I have a number of papers in the field of lighting and optics.
As far as the lighting was concerned in that area where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, are you aware there was no overhead street ambient lighting or anything like that?
Objection.
Oh, lighting.
I'm not aware of that. A great deal of my work is in the field of lighting and visibility. So,
and you didn't do any visibility analysis or anything in relation to this case, correct?
That wasn't a part of my scope in this case. There's a direct correlation between time of day and pedestrian incidents.
The operator of the vehicle has a passenger who then exits the vehicle and goes towards the back. Would there be a high reasonable expectation that the pedestrian would be located in that area?
I don't know if I would classify it as high.
What would you classify it as?
We see a rise in the evening and night hours just due to drivers having a difficult ability to try to perceive and recognize individuals.
And you didn't do any visibility analysis or anything in relation to this case?
An expert in visibility that didn't do any visibility testing.
I have a recent publication that deals with Toyota and Lexus vehicle control history records as well.
Only time have you shown any text stream data, Toyota text stream data from the defendant's vehicle?
No.
So you weren't shown any data indicating that the defendant's vehicle was being operated in reverse?
The objection sustained. Next question.
An expert in Toyota text stream, but they didn't give him the Toyota text stream.
Now, doctor, in the course of your analysis or review of materials here, were you ever provided with a video of the defendant backing out of a garage and making contact with Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle in his driveway at about 5:07 in the morning on January 29th?
No.
Now, as far as from your review and your testing and everything that you did in this case, if a collision occurred at a lower speed, say 1, 2, anywhere from 0 to 5 miles an hour, would that create the damage to the taillight that you observed in this particular case?
At that speed, no.
Generally consistent with pedestrian collisions, the shoe may come off during the collision sequence near the area of impact.
Shoes can't come off in a pedestrian impact, yes.
Were you aware that there were microscopic pieces of red and clear plastic, about 1/16 of an inch by 1/16 of an inch, that were recovered from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing that were then found to be consistent with the taillight?
No, I don't believe so.
Now, you never looked at the defendant's vehicle in this case, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware that the defendant's vehicle is still in police custody and available for inspection?
I'm not aware of that.
Did you ever ask to look at the defendant's vehicle?
No. An individual, for that matter, could throw a drinking glass at the taillight, emanated from that. So that's where we targeted it.
So you literally built a cannon?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. We performed 2 different tests in terms of speeds. The target speeds were 30 and 40 miles per hour.
Now, when you did this testing as far as the sort of breakage or the pieces that came off the taillight, is it fair to say that they were of sort of different shapes and sizes, the broken pieces?
Sure.
Consistent with the broken pieces that were found on the scene near Mr. O'Keefe's body?
Yes, I would say that's fair. We noted and observed that there was damage that was consistent with that of the subject tail lamp, and that the test tail lamp had the majority of the outer lens fractured and missing, broken into pieces, as well as some underlying damage to some of the internal components as well.
Could be produced by a person simply holding a glass and being hit by the car driving in reverse.
We didn't do any testing of that. And
what's going to happen to your body? It's just going to spin around, right? Because it's producing a moment arm, which produces a torque on the body. So your body's going to basically spin.
Oh, so we did a pirouette?
what is your opinion or conclusion as to whether or not the damage to the taillight was caused by striking John O'Keefe's head?
From a damage standpoint, it was inconsistent.
The injury to the head that you saw consistent with having been struck by a vehicle at 24 miles per hour?
It is not, no, sir.
Can you explain why that is?
There's a couple of reasons. First of all, and the main reason is that to get the injury, it was a fracture at the occipital region of the head, which is basically on the back bottom part of the head. So in order to have that part of the head contacted by the taillight, you would somehow have to have a configuration or be standing in a manner that the rest of your body doesn't get hit, because there's no other significant injuries to the body. If there's enough force to cause a skull fracture, then there's going to be certainly enough force to cause injury to the rest of the body. So first of all, you have to determine how could you configure somebody could actually be standing to have only the head impacted, the back of the head. And even if that was the case, if somebody positioned themselves in such a manner to have that occur, you're still going to see other injuries related to that. For instance, with the cervical spine, over 1,000 pounds of force acting on the head, you're going to get significant cervical injuries.
And the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe were primarily on the right side of his body, correct?
Correct.
So there were injuries to his right arm and forearm, elbow area, correct?
Correct.
There was bruising to his right hand. Do you recall that?
Yes.
There was an abrasion to the outside or the posterior of his right leg near his knee. Do you recall that?
I don't know that I recall that off the top of my head.
And do you recall sort of the skull fracture or the laceration that immediately outside of the skull fracture was on sort of the right back of his head?
Yes.
Experts to assess the injuries when they didn't know about all of the injuries.
In order to get the body, or the complete body, over, for instance, 10, 20, 30 feet into the yard, you need a force acting at the center of mass. You need an external force pushing the body that way. And that's not going to happen if you just hit the arm. It's not enough force. It's not the right mechanism to actually cause the body to somehow move that far over.
They were given piecemeal information so they could create an alternative theory. Why is Josh Levy trying to exonerate a murderer? That is the question of the day. Like, what is the motivation behind it? What Josh Levy has done here, I mean, creating chaos in the streets, basically, based on what? Like, what? If they didn't find anything in those text messages, like the Alec Baldwin trial, the reason that they were that was dismissed was because there was exculpatory evidence that was withheld from the defense. So all that the FBI had to do was find one thing, and that they didn't give up, that would have exonerated her, and she could have gotten it dismissed in the same way. But with all that work from the FBI, they still didn't find anything. Any hidden exculpatory evidence. Like, all of the evidence pointed in one direction. And so it's really odd that then, after finding all that, then Josh Levy is going to engage these ARCA guys to create this like partial reconstruction based on just the injuries. And that's the key too, is they said that it was based on just the injuries and the damage to the vehicle. That's it. So when he's talking about, it couldn't have thrown him this many feet in the yard, they didn't have that information. That wasn't part of their scope anyway. So they don't know how far he was in the yard. They don't know how far away his shoe was. They didn't have Trooper Paul's measurements. So that wasn't part of their scope. They were only looking at the injuries, and the injury that they tested was the one in the back of the head, because that was the main injury that ended his life, or incapacitated him until the hypothermia got to him. So that is the injury that they tested. So they tested the head hitting the taillight, and the damage was too much. So they did a 7.5-foot drop test, which is equivalent to 15 miles per hour. And so that damage was too much, because the head is big and round, and the way that the taillight was broken, it was more like a pinpoint, and that's why they threw the glass at it, because it was more like a direct piece of damage, and then it emanated from that. But I think that would be like your elbow. And so in the cross-examination, the guy was saying, Well, an arm also weighs 11 pounds, so it would be the same as the drop test with the head form, but it wouldn't because the head form is bigger. It's going to create more damage. An elbow is a narrow, small object, just kind of like throwing the glass at it. And so if there was a hairline fracture or anything else, it could have broken easily. And it's exactly like where the dent on her tailgate is like where his arm would be. If it hit his elbow, his arm went back, and that top lip of the car could hit the right side of his head. I mean, I don't know why that was never kind of explored by anybody. Maybe because there's no damage. But I think the whole damage question is really like they're thinking about it from a perspective of that's the only piece that hit the car. That's why there wasn't more damage. But his knee had that little bit, had that bruise. His head could have been hit. So that means like the whole right side could have been hit all at once. The elbow, that's the heaviest. I mean, that's his center of gravity. That's the heaviest part of him. That's the part that went through the taillight. And, he spun around and landed on the ground. Like, it's really not that complicated. It's not traditional pedestrian injuries because usually they're thrown on the hood of the car, they're hitting the legs and they're thrown on the hood of the car. And, there's almost always skull fractures too. But like the thing is here, it's like they are just taking the piece where at the end during cross-examination where he's like, well, we didn't test it because science and physics shows. But the problem is, I mean, that was a good answer for him to cover his ass and to stop getting cross-examined. But like, they didn't have the science and physics. They didn't have the distance. They didn't have the speed of the vehicle. They didn't have anything to do any of those equations. So it's not science and physics. And they left out the knee injury. And I just think that's important. It's not as bad as the arm, but like there's the 3 points of his body, the 3 points of that car that stick out are all bruised. Like where else are you going to get that from? Was he just beat up by a lefty that punched him in the knee and then punched him in the arm and scratched his arm? And then, it just doesn't make any sense. Like the only thing that could have done that would be, the taillight, unless they think it's from, like an animal, but like, I just don't think it looks like that. I think it's too consistent and too, especially where the elbow is, it's kind of emanating from that spot. I think this next time they're going to have somebody, they probably got a budget. They're going to have a reconstructionist that's going to come in and do a more exact reconstruction. I don't think they'll have these guys in the next trial because the defense got away with just using them as like, people that they didn't hire, but they really didn't test the actual scenario. They didn't debunk anything. So it's kind of, they know that the Commonwealth's going to have someone that's going to do a full reconstruction next time. They can't just get away with doing a partial thing like this. I mean, they're going to find somebody that's going to refute it and say it's impossible. Like that. That's just a given. It's just funny that people actually like take this stuff as if it's like fact when it's like, this is their job. They literally just pretend to know things. They know things, but they're not, they're not, especially, Rick Green, I think is the worst one. I kind of want to call him up on one of these lives one time. I might have to do a daytime live and call him. Because, he's right on St. Pete Beach and, I shouldn't give him warning just in case he gets notice. But I just want to call him up and ask him about wall files because he's the only person on earth that is saying that the wall file, a user can delete it, number one, which is incorrect. So Jen McCabe never deleted those phone calls. The phone calls that he was saying were deleted were wall log files, which is not something that a user can delete. And the same thing with the wall file that held the search. That's also not something that a user can delete. So just everything that he said is just not true. And I just want to ask him about it. I'm looking for someone to do a phone extraction just to like test some stuff out. So I feel like that's what he does. So I should just call him up and just kind of find out, what these wall file timestamps mean. And Ian Whiffen released a new blog saying there's a lot of people that are reaching out, and it's probably because of the trial, probably because people did watch the trial and did hear about it. And then, people are still arguing about it on Reddit. Like, if you look at the Reddit post, it's mind-boggling, like, how few people actually, like, watched anything. Like, they are just watching all of these YouTubers. So, like, the main thing that they're saying is that Jen McCabe was the only one that said, I hit him. Like, what? Like, it's insane. It's insane. She doesn't even, it doesn't even matter that she said it, to be honest, because there's 3 paramedics that said it. But they're still in this world where that Jen McCabe orchestrated the whole thing. I don't know what these people are looking at or watching or paying attention to, but it's like, it's kind of eye-opening, because there's just nothing. There's just, I don't know. Even people that watch the trial or like claim they do, it's like they watch it, but then they watch the recap on, the Young Jerks or whatever, one of those shows that are going to kind of hone in on like certain pieces and ignore all the evidence. And I mean, that's what's been happening since the beginning. Yeah, the dog expert lady. I mean, I feel like, I can't believe people even like, oh yeah, some reputable experts said that they were dog bites. I cannot believe that anyone. I don't think that the jury thought she was credible at all. I mean, she didn't even read the report. Like, there was no dog DNA. Yeah. First responders. I mean, I feel like they probably know one another, but I don't think that they were all in cahoots to get a story straight. I mean, I think Flamati was the first one that reported it directly to Yuri. And then the next day, when Proctor was starting to collect statements from people, 3 of them told him, Nuttall, McLaughlin, and Flamati. So Flamati was the one that originally like reported it to Yuri that morning. That's why Yuri called the hospital and was like, I think he was hit. Not thinking hit by a car, but just hit. So I just don't know why people, I mean, I know that was the original narrative way back when, before we heard all these people testify. It's just unbelievable that they're still able to like push this false, like this misinformation. It's wild. It really is wild. And I mean, I could push a lot of misinformation because a lot of people tell me all kinds of things, and I'm just like, I don't know if that's valid or not. So I don't really want to like put it out there, but I mean, I could. I mean, there's one creator now that's talking about D&E Pizza has like an underground rug ring in the basement, which I don't even think that place has a basement, but maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe it does, but usually places like that don't. But yeah, it's just unbelievable. I mean, the creators are doing it because they, want to drum this stuff up. This is like hot topic. Like, oh, someone Googled how long to die in cold when someone was dying in the cold. But it's like, what? I don't know. It's just like the damage that you're doing by like spreading that still. It's just so gross. It's like, what kind of person are you? There was a guy, and I heard about this, and now I actually didn't know all of this, but Casey, I can't think of what his last name is. But it was in 2018. There was a car accident, and the guy was thrown from his vehicle in Canton, and it was right across from John O'Keefe's house on Pleasant Street, 5 doors down from Colin Albert's house. And the cops came, they like towed the cars, they cleared the scene. They didn't see the guy's body on the lawn. And then like 3 or 4 hours later, someone called to say the guy was like sleeping on the lawn. It was really that guy like dead or something. I think his name was like Roger Casey or something Casey. I read about it a while ago, But I didn't realize that it was John O'Keefe's, like, that intersection, Pleasant Street, that he's literally like on the corner of Pleasant and Meadows. But I don't know. I mean, I've heard some things about Rita Lombardi that might not be true, but I don't want to spread them around the internet, or maybe I do. That I can just say allegedly, but allegedly, the reason that her and Chris Albert have some bad blood is because, well, partially it's because she wanted to get on the select board, but allegedly she's a furry. Someone sent me a picture of her dressed up on the way to go see Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know if it's real. I mean, I don't know. But apparently she was like digging through eating pizza out of the garbage and behind Chris Albert's pizza shop, and that's why they're enemies. I don't know. But I mean, I don't know. Imagine. I'm trying to pick up this picture. But this is the picture that they sent to me. But I mean, if she really is a furry, and and that's what this is all about, I don't know. So apparently this is her going to Sonic the Hedgehog last week. So furries, it's like a fetish, and it's like people dress up like these animals and they like smash and while dressed in costume and pretend that they're these animals. And it's like a big thing. And so maybe she is a furry. And I mean, maybe that's what it's all about. I don't know. But something really, and like, so the whole Chris Albert thing is like, her favorite thing is like to be a raccoon. This doesn't look like a raccoon to me though. This looks like a dog. This is a cute furry, actually. But apparently she likes a raccoon and she likes to dig through dumpsters, and like that's why her and Chris Albert don't get along, because she was always like in the dumpster eating like the leftover pizza and stuff. And I mean, I don't know. Canton is a weird place. But so that's the furry story, and that's not it. And I think these stories are funny and cute. I mean, I wouldn't go and say like I think this is true, but it's still funny. But I mean, it could be true. Who knows? But apparently, one of her claws are missing. And, I think that John O'Keefe was hit by the car, like without a doubt. But apparently her claw is missing. And, she does like to run around late at night. Maybe she was running around that morning and maybe she's the one that found his body and scratched him up. Like, who knows? But it really could. I mean, we just don't know. I mean, those don't look too sharp to me, but you never know. This is just this is a mock-up. This is an actual one. She probably does have real claws. So, I mean, but what if they did find pig DNA? So, I don't know. I mean, who knows? Like, really? This could be a whole furry scandal. She was trying to keep it in the closet. Chris Albert knows. It was a perfect chance for her to like come at them and totally like fight back because she didn't want to be outed as a furry. I don't know. I don't know. But it's interesting. Yeah, definitely blunt force claws to me. I mean, that is a cute furry costume. I mean, furries are strange, but I wonder if she really is a furry. And like, that's what it's all about. I mean, most people that are furries, it's only known amongst their furry friends. Like, regular people don't know about it. So if it did start to get out through Chris Albert and he was like telling people, like, that would give her motive to come after them. I mean, she could have started this whole thing. Who knows? Because it's an opportunity to like take him down, get him out of the way. I don't know. I mean, so that's the thing, is like people that are furries in general, I mean, they probably are kind of animal-like naturally. So I don't know. We'll have to wait till No Shave November. I mean, it does make as much sense as a dog bite theory. I mean, I think this is a better one. This is more interesting. It's more there's more motive. You know, there's something that somebody has to hide. There's literally no motive to the whole John O'Keefe was killed inside the house thing. I mean, they try to do the rug theory thing with Colin Albert. That didn't work out. We saw I think I do have that report. Let me see. So the report where John O'Keefe was looking for, here it is. It keeps going to the wrong screen. So July 10th. So someone they wanted the results of all documentation and records related to the investigation into George Williamson of 2 Burr Lane, Canton, Mass. It is my understanding that John O'Keefe of 1 Meadows Ave provided video evidence to Detective Kevin Albert regarding this incident in March 2021, as well as a thread of text messages corresponding between O'Keefe and Albert. The Massachusetts Freedom of Information Act, blah, 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 blah. So this was a thing that they were saying for a while, that I don't even know what it was. It was like that John O'Keefe was reported Colin Albert, right? And that's what this is, though. They lie about everything. So he did report this guy, George Williamson. He must have got a video of him, whatever. But he reported it to Kevin Albert. So if it had anything to do with Colin Albert, he's not going to give it to Kevin Albert. So, I mean, that whole thing was a lie. And that was the one thing that I thought was like the best motive that they came up with was, oh yeah, well, if there was like some kind of rogue activity, and John reported it, then, you know, that's the only time that I ever considered for a moment that there might have been like some kind of motive. But no, there wasn't. I mean, it had nothing to do with Colin Albert. And that's getting back to that the Casey guy thing. So the rumor now that they're saying is that Colin Albert like was with the guy Casey and they killed him, and like, so they did it before, basically. Like Colin Albert and Chris Albert killed this guy and put him on the front lawn, and it worked before, so they're gonna do it again. And that's like oh my god, these people are so dumb. But the problem is that at the time, this was 2018, so Colin Albert was 13, and he's hanging out with some like 25-year-old addict that like crashed a car and got thrown for it doesn't make any sense. Because I mean, the car was there, smashed up in the middle of the road, so it's not like I don't even know what's wrong with these people, to be honest. I really don't know. I know, Colin with the mob after him. I mean, it's sick. It really is sick, the stuff. And I mean, I just feel like he's not even in. I mean, none of them are. Like, the only ones that I even consider, like, I think Jen McCabe and Colin Albert completely were exonerated based on the evidence, right? Completely exonerated based on the evidence. I just don't think. I mean, Higgins is the only one that is potential. It doesn't make sense though, even with him. But I just don't think that Jen McCabe, like literally all of her phone data was a lie. So she knew nothing. She just went there as a friend and was trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Colin Albert is completely in his own 17-year-old senior world, is not paying attention to what the adults are doing at all. So it's like, yeah, Colin Albert's just gonna be like, yo, let me he doesn't give a shit. He's out being a kid. Like, it's a senior year in high school. Like, he's not gonna just be like, oh, it's a blizzard, let me like fight this guy. It's so stupid. It really is unbelievable. And that's the thing. It's like Colin and Jen McCabe get harassed the most. I guess because they're easy targets. It's like a woman and a younger kid. The other two are cops, so like Brian Albert, Brian Higgins. I just don't know. There's just nothing. Like Brian Albert, like he was a detective, and I was reading about something that he did. Oh, he found like the Boston Strangler or something, or identified the Boston Strangler. I was reading something one day where he found like a water bottle at a construction site, and it like led back to like I think it was the Boston Strangler, or like identified him or something. But that's the thing. Like, he is a detective. Like, he is not going to be like, oh, let's like if it was and because even if something happened, even if he went inside the house, he definitely did not. But even if there was a fight or like whatever, nobody is going to be like, oh, let's cover this up and like murder the guy. Like, that's just so freaking ridiculous. They immediately would have called 911 and rendered aid, like if there was a fight. I don't think there was. I don't think he ever went inside the house. Like none of this stuff ever happened. But it's wild. Oh, so Alec Baldwin's case dismissed. Like, a lot of people are talking about that. I mean, to me, that whole thing, I don't, do I think he was, because I mean, it was involuntary manslaughter, I believe. So that just means you're culpable, but it wasn't on purpose. Like, I don't know. I thought it was kind of unbelievable that they were even pressing the charges against him, because I would just think as an actor, you are acting. Like, you don't think you have real weapons. Like, I wouldn't think that it was a real weapon. I don't know. I just, and the whole thing with that. And so, like, a lot of the Karen Read supporters are like, too bad that judge wasn't for Karen Read. I'm like, do we understand what actually happened there? So, like, in that case, it was because there was exculpatory evidence that they didn't provide to the defense. And it was too late because the trial had already started, and, they had to, and it seems like it was hidden. It wasn't just that they didn't know that they had it. They knew, and they didn't provide it. So that's why it was dismissed. So if the feds, which worked on this case for a year and a half to find exculpatory evidence, could not find anything, is not getting dismissed. Like that's what they were looking for. That was the whole purpose of the feds getting involved, was to find, some kind of evidence that the Commonwealth kept hidden from her to implicate her in this crime, because then she would have been able to get it dismissed, or would have been able to actually have a valid reason. So they didn't find any, like they didn't get anything. They were hoping that they would, but they got nothing. Like one of the things that they put in one of their dismissals was like Paul O'Keefe, when he saw John in the hospital, he said, "Oh, he looks like he got hit by a car." And they said that was like prejudicing the jury or the grand jury, because they were saying that was like an expert testimony or something. Like it was so weird. They're just so grasping at straws in this case because she is so guilty. And I mean, the public is I've never realized how slow the public is until this case. I thought that most people follow the evidence and like as things come up and they change their mind, but like people think it's a team sport and they don't change their mind. Yeah, the FBI, the FBI has found nothing. I don't think they will find anything. Yeah, the whole pre-trial PR campaign was to get this case dismissed. And that's why I think, that original April 2023, that hearing was, I think it was Rule 17. They were trying to get phones maybe, but that's when they first brought up the phone calls from Rick Green, the Apple Health data, the Google search. Like they really hammered Jen McCabe in that hearing. And then Colin Albert, I don't think was brought up till later. The dog bites were brought up in that one. I can't remember when they started bringing up Colin Albert, or whether it was. I remember there was a hearing where they talked about Lucky Loughran. I mean, there's just so much crap in this case. It's wild. But they didn't back any of it up. Like I didn't know if they were going to have something real, but they didn't have anything. They had nothing. And so that's why I'm kind of like, trial 2, they're screwed because they can't pull the same crap again, I don't think. Because I think it would be, I don't know. At this point, it seems like it would be pretty unethical. I don't know. I don't know if they can get in trouble for it, or like what standard they held to. But my God. Yeah, so the whole thing, July 22nd, that is the next piece of this puzzle. And, oh, that's like a week away. No. What the hell's today's date? 14th. My clock on this computer is wrong. 1 week away. So that's just gonna, I mean, maybe we're gonna find out if Karen Reed is losing an attorney. I don't know if she'd officially announce it, but I just probably. Turtle Boy's court hearing. I mean, he pretended that it was in his favor. Turtle Boy's court. So he was, I mean, the main thing that came out of that was trial most likely is going to be in the fall of the winter. So it's pushed out more and more. He was trying to get like a month worth of phone calls from his girlfriend in the first hearing. And that was denied. He pretended that he won, but it was denied. He got 1 day. He got 24 hours of call data. But he was pretending that was a win, but they said no. And then the other one was, I'm trying to think of which one's which. I think the second one is just, that's the one where they're just getting more and more discovery. I mean, that's the more important one, I think, is the witness intimidation one. That's the one that I'm interested in to see how it would go down. The other one, I guess the one with his girlfriend is also, I don't know what the charges are with that one. Yeah, Turtle Boy definitely definitely needs to be held accountable. I mean, even with this juror stuff, like I feel like he's even pushing the line there. Because this jury most likely is afraid of the pink slime that was outside the courthouse the whole time, right? Chanting, and I mean that has to have an influence. It has to. I think jurors probably, when they're in deliberations, are ignoring it, but I mean people are influenced whether they know it or not. So I just think, I don't know. He is on film intimidating Jen. Would I go stand outside the courthouse? I mean, if I'm in that area, I probably would. I'm wondering, I probably will be up in the area in August. I wonder if there will be anything going on then. Because we have July 22nd. That's going to be whatever scheduling, or I mean, the pre-trial for this next trial number 2 for Karen Reed. It's going to be interesting. Because I just feel like they made a lot of mistakes letting a lot of bullshit in. I don't see how those text messages from Proctor were relevant at all. I don't think that was right to let that in. I think that kind of muddied the hell out of the waters. I just think that they need to totally nail it down what's going to be allowed in, because there was so much extra BS allowed in. Like, you can't just be having random crap. Like Karen Reed, they were so specific about what we were allowed to have in or know about her. The only things we know about her were things that happened in that Aruba trip, just like that very short piece. And then that night, we didn't see any other texts or anything. And I mean, I thought that we were going to see more, because I thought, you know, if they were breaking up, if there was things going on in the relationship, like either side should have, I mean, the defense probably would have brought it in if there was a lot of like lovey-dovey stuff or whatever, but obviously there wasn't. I know that they said that they were planning a trip, and I don't remember this. I remember them saying in an opening. I don't know if they ever covered it, but I think Yannetti said that they weren't breaking up. They were planning a trip together. I don't think we ever heard that testimony, though. So I don't know if that was a text or what. I would think it was a text. It's just interesting, though, that we didn't get to see anything about really their relationship or anything. And yet we saw Colin Albert's freaking social media and all that crap to like slander him. And it's a little weird. We saw like Jen McCabe's group text with the group that morning, the morning after the body was found. None of that revealed anything either. It was just like, to me, it showed more that they were just like shocked, like, what the hell's going on? The cops are digging something up. What are they digging up? Like, I don't know. If it was a cover-up and a conspiracy, they would know what the hell the cops were digging up. They wouldn't need text about it in a group. They wouldn't have needed to, like, I think that's normal for them to sit together in the kitchen and like think about what happened. You know, if it was a cover-up, a conspiracy, they already would have had the plan in place from the night before, and they wouldn't, you know, it's just so stupid. Yeah, Proctor's personal phone, that was a joke. Yeah, and we didn't see Karen's interviews. Like, I don't know. I know that they try to keep that stuff out. I don't know why. I think it was allowed in, but I think what happened was Bev was like, we're running out of time. You need to like cut things out. And I think that's what happened. But I think that the stuff that she said in those interviews is definitely should have been played. I mean, definitely should have been played. Don't take up like a whole day to say it. I mean, there's so much crap in this trial that like was not needed. I think the questioning, I don't know, like Kerry Roberts, I feel like that testimony was like straight to the point, exactly what happened. That's it. But like with Jen McCabe, they just like went off on all these, and it's mostly the cross-examination. But it's because they're trying to prove a freaking crazy conspiracy theory, and the prosecution's trying to refute it. So I just think, I don't know, are they going to do this again? I think they're already slowly starting to pivot away from the whole setup BS, slowly moving the audience away so they're ready when second trial doesn't defend that. That's what I was thinking that too, and I heard some stuff come out about that. But the whole thing with Microdots releasing that video, because Microdots, their stuff was being used in the trial. They are an employee of Karen Reed's defense. So Microdots releasing that video was just so bizarre to me, because it's like, this is over and done with, isn't it? I just don't know what the hell they were doing. So yeah, I just feel like it might be up in the air. I mean, I would think that, I mean, based on what the votes were for the jury, I don't really know if what I believe. If it was 4-8, or was it 10-2, 8-4, like, I don't think it matters. I think to them, they're gonna say, all right, well, even with all that bullshit that we put in and we tried for a year, most people still think you hit him with the car. So maybe we got to go with that. And like, we need to just come up with another reason. Like, you were blacked out drunk, you didn't know. I mean, anything's going to screw her though. So I just don't know. There's a new video Microdots did of Jen McCabe, and it's awful. And everyone's bringing it up lately. So everyone's saying, oh, we saw Microdots video, so we know that Jen McCabe whispered to her sister, help is coming, or something like that. So basically it's going off the phone data, and it's like an animation. It's well done, but it's just so deceitful. So Jen McCabe, and they try to bring it up at trial, but like, you really cannot hear, even in the Microdots video, you can't hear what she's saying at all. She's just mumbling. So she calls 911. So we have that call. And then right after she hangs up with 911, she calls her sister. And like, you hear her mumble something, but then she calls her sister again right after. So like, if you use your brain, that means that mumble was not her saying, we're outside, we're getting help, or something, or whatever the hell they're trying to say she said. That's what that video is trying to that video is trying to say, that she called 911, then she called her sister and whispered to her sister, help is coming, or something, and then hung up. But the problem is, she calls, she mumbles, and it's completely inaudible. I think she's probably like, do I run up to the house? Like, she was probably like thinking to herself, like mumbling, and then she called her sister again. So if she did relay that message in the first call, she would not have called again. So to me, it just shows that she was in the car. She's trying to call the people in the house. All hell's breaking loose. She just called 911, but she was trying to like wake them up inside the house. And she was like, whatever, they didn't answer. So then she just got out of the car. But she was probably debating whether she should run up to the house or what to do. But yeah, they're just like really dragging her, and I just think it's bizarre, because I feel like, are they going to pull Rick Green in again? He really didn't offer anything good, anything credible. He just made it seem like the defense was lying. And so that's the whole thing, is like the jury, even with all the stunts that they pulled, the jury's still like, okay, she definitely hit him with a car. Like, even the ones that voted not guilty still said, we voted not guilty because we don't think the car and the hypothermia killed him, which, if you have people like that on the jury, like, they need to go somewhere, because that just does not make any sense. Because basically they're saying, oh, well, she hit him with the car, but that didn't end his life. His life ended because he was left in the cold. So she didn't do it. So she's not guilty. And that was the argument of, allegedly, the argument of some of the people that were on the not guilty side. But that just makes no sense at all. That's like saying if I like took someone out on a boat and I like punched them in the face, knocked them out, and they fell in the water. I didn't kill, and I left them in the water, didn't help them out. I didn't kill them because the punch didn't kill them. Like, that doesn't make sense. No. Unbelievable that was said. And I just find it highly suspect that someone would say that. I feel like it was defense planting that tidbit of information out there just to see how it goes over with the public. Because they're trying to get away. They're trying to think of their new defense, because this one didn't work. They need a not guilty, so they're trying to say, like, they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do next. So if they start saying like, oh, she hit him with the car, but what? Like, to avoid the manslaughter? Like, I just don't see how you can. Or the taillight pieces were in his clothes and around him. Now Lally knows too what to go after. So, I mean, Lally just really needs to go after like her state of mind. He needs to hammer in what she said and did up to and before the body was found. I don't know. But I don't have that many people in here because my X is not connected. Because I think a lot of people get connected on X, or get the notification at least. I don't know. I'm just like wondering I really want to see what they're going to come up with. I mean, it's such BS. Like, she wasted $1 million. I mean, I'm happy about that. She bankrupted her family and still didn't get a not guilty, and she's going to do it all over again. Haha. Dumb. I definitely think the defense is trying to delay, hence this publicity stunt. They want to appeal, which takes time. Plus, they want to keep it in the media and trying to keep support and money for her. Yeah, I know. It's gross. I just wish that someone had dirt on her. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's not allowed at trial. I know that allegedly she had a boyfriend that she was abusive towards. Like, no one has anything? Come on. Send me something. I know that just from like the few text messages that we've seen, we can see that she's not like a great person. She doesn't really like people. She doesn't give a shit about anybody but herself. She's manipulative. She lies all the time. I'm sure the Reeds are bankrupt. We shall see. So the thing is, what Lally needs to nail down is he's going to get a reconstruction, I'm sure. The text stream data. I mean, that's, to me, that is, if they have someone that's really, so the way that the ARCA experts presented, the way that they testified, they were really credible. They really did. I mean, they were credible with the information that they have. Like, that's their conclusions. But if the Commonwealth has an expert that can explain the text stream data and can explain the reconstruction with that level of certainty and expertise, like she's screwed. She is done. And the fact that her team did not have anybody to refute that text stream data, that tells me that it's valid, you know, because it would be so easy for Nathan Reed, who works at Lexus, to get the expert, get the developer, get the engineer, get that person out there and be like, you know, dispute this data. My sister's going to go to jail for murder. So, like, can you look at this data and, like, tell me where they got it wrong? They didn't have any experts to refute that data. So that data is valid. So if they just have someone, I mean, the trial will be done in one day. You know, what she said at the scene, the evidence that was collected, the text stream data, and the reconstruction, and that's it. Done. Go to jail. Bye. They just need, you know, really credible people to say it. And they're going to have a budget this time. I mean, I'm sure the Commonwealth is going to, like, give Lally more of a budget this time. They're going to be able to reuse, like, all the DNA and all that other stuff that they've already done. They can still have that. But I think that they definitely need to invest in, you know, maybe not ARCA, because I feel like they're a little bit sketchy, but because they're in bed with the feds a little bit. I mean, that's the thing. So companies like that, they're a litigation company. They definitely get contracts with the same people all the time from the feds. And, like, that's their business. So they need to present what that person wants them to present, so they can continue to get future contracts. And so I wouldn't mess with them. That's the federal government's contractor. You would want to find your own. And that's just my take on that. But I'm going to end this live. It was good catching up, and we'll see what happens next. There's no date set for a retrial yet. July 22nd, we'll find out more. I agree they're going to try to delay. This whole shit show has made me worry for us as a species. The bullshit some people believe with no evidence is unbelievable, and the way people behave because of these lies is scary. I agree. It is very scary. It's very scary. But well, we'll have to see. I think it might be a silent majority that we just don't know about. People just don't want to fight with those people, so they don't say anything. But I think most people know she's guilty as all hell. But have a good night.